You know, the fear of man always leads to an increase of evil in our lives. Many evil things that we can look at, many sins that we commit, many choices that we make, many of them can be traced back to some type of fear that we have in our heart. When we give in to the fear of man, then, we end up finding out harm is always involved. And eventually destruction is involved if we let it go too far. On the other hand, the fear of God leads to overcoming all kinds of challenges in our life. The fear of God allows us to bring goodwill into the world, into our communities, into our fellow man. The fear of God results in actions that are healing actions and actions that empower others and that are a blessing to our community around us. And the fear of God brings God's blessings upon us and eventually salvation as well. And this happens because when we choose God, then God chooses to engage in our lives. And we can see that happening so clearly here in the story that we're reading about today. Let's look at verse 20. Back in Exodus 1, verse 20, it says, "So God was kind to the midwives, and the people increased and became even more numerous." You see how God engaged? The midwives did not give in to the fear of man. They feared God. They were respecting Him. They were honoring Him with their actions. And what did God do? He engaged and He showed kindness to them. Just thinking about this from an unspiritual way, you have this setup where these women were being told by who was supposedly the most powerful person in their known world at the time. They were being commanded to do something, and they said, "I'm not going to listen to you." And he had all the power in the world to do whatever he wanted. But the truth is, he didn't have all the power in the world to do whatever he wanted. Because when these women chose to stand with God, God chose to stand with them. And He could do whatever He wants. And He decided, no, it's not time for these women to die. No, it's not time for these women to suffer. He was kind to them and He blessed them. Look what happens here in verse 21. It says that because the midwives feared God, He gave them families of their own. So, from one point of view, you're thinking, if I stand up to Pharaoh, I'm dead. It's all over for me. And so maybe I should compromise and I should give in to my fear. On the other side, you're like, well, I'm going to do what's right with God no matter what. And then what happens in the future? What happened in the future was, no, they didn't die. Instead, what happened was God gave them families of their own. Apparently something that they really wanted, because it says that this was a way in which God blessed them.